What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Top Dogs Podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. We are presented by our partners over at Bet River Sportsbook, and I can officially say, per every single one of all of my sources, both on the record and off the record, that officially UConn is back. After an 87-69 win over Providence last night, UConn has now won 2 in a row. They've won 5 of their last 6, and they've won 6 of their last 8 to get to 21-7 on the season and 10-7 in the Big East, finally climbing back into the top 10 on KenPom. Included in that run, a 15-point win over Marquette last week and an 18-point win over Providence that they got last night. They are a 3-point loss versus Xavier at home and a 3-point loss at Creighton 2 weekends ago, away from being on an 8-game winning streak, as we are now just 3 games away, 10 days away from the start of March Madness, from the start of the Big East tournament, from the start of all of the games that matter more than anything else to all of us. So it's a good spot to be in if you are a UConn Huskies fan like I am. There's a lot I want to get into here and a lot I want to discuss about that game last night and what the last week, 2 weeks, and frankly, last 4 weeks have been like for UConn fans since January kind of came to an end. First thing I want to say, though, last night was the first time I was able to get back to Gamble Pavilion for the first time in I think 16 or 17 years. Last time I was there, I was in college. I graduated college 2008. So at some point in that span, I just haven't been back to Gamble since. It's a long drive for me. I drove up 4 hours yesterday morning, drove back 4 hours last night after recording After Dark from the floor of Gamble Pavilion. The building was electric. The $2 beers certainly did the trick, as Ed Cooley can attest, and as Dan Hurley can attest. That building was loud. That building was packed. That building was intimidating, and I think that it showed in the way that Providence ended up playing. I've never seen a Providence team just kind of roll over the way that team did last night. Cooley talked about it in the post-game press conference. He said it was man against boys. He said that I did not have my team ready to play. I did not have them ready on a toughness level. By the end of the game, you could see Devin Carter and Bryce Hopkins and Jared Bynum and all of these veterans just walking back on defense when it was already a 20-point game. The first time that Providence has been down by 20 at any game this season. So really, really impressive performance all around from the players, from the students, from the program and from the school that was able to get this game to the point where you had the whiteout with all of the towels, despite the fact that there was snow, despite the fact that it was a 6:30 tip in stores when everybody had to work that day. Really, really impressive. And I think it needs to be noted that this is what you need your home court to be if you're going to have the level of a success that UConn fans demand in this conference, right? Prior to Tuesday night, if you look at the top 5 teams in the Big East, there were only 2 losses that any of those top 5 teams took on their home floor during the conference season. Both of those losses were by UConn, at home to St. John's and at home to Xavier by 3 points. On Tuesday night, Marquette won at Creighton and Villanova won at Xavier, results that more or less decided what the Big East regular season title was going to be. If UConn had defended their home court this entire season, they would be tied for second place right now with 3 other teams in the Big East regular season standings. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between being more or less locked into being the 5 seed in the Big East tournament and having a chance to get into that 2 or 3 seed line so that you don't have to play 3 of the top 5 teams in this league to be able to win the Big East tournament title. That's the difference right there. It's those home games. You got to protect your home court. Gamble last night was a fortress. That's what it needs to be every single night if UConn is going to be able to compete at the level that they want to compete. That's what it is every single time you go to Omaha to play Creighton. That's what it is every single time you go to the Cintas Center to play Xavier. That's what it is when you go to the Dunk and it's a big game at the Dunk or the Amp or whatever the hell they're calling it down there in Providence these days. That's what it is every time you go to play a big game at Marquette. That's what you need. You need that home court environment, and it was that last night. It matters. The noise you make matters. It impacts their own team. It impacted them last night. One of the toughest teams in the country couldn't handle the environment. I think that says it all. Hopefully we will find a way to keep that thing going because it was really impressive how well UConn played in that space and how poorly, I think, a lot of that was a result of what UConn was doing, but I think that, Providence was a little bit intimidated by the moment. It's hard to blame them there. So remember this. Remember this result. Remember this performance. Remember that it matters for you as a fan. You want to win? This is how you contribute. All right, let's talk about the game. I guess a little bit about the last 3 weeks overall. Before I do, just a reminder, make sure that you are subscribed to the Field of 68 YouTube channel. Make sure you rate and review this podcast if you're listening to it on a podcast app. And also make sure you go and you subscribe to the Field of 68. We just started the Field of 68 Daily Premium, which means for the next 5 weeks, you will be able to get 2 extra newsletters on Saturday mornings. You get a column from Stats by Will on what he thinks is the most interesting topic in the country. And then on Sunday mornings, you are going to get a full breakdown of everything that happened on Saturday in college basketball. It's the biggest time of the year. Now's the time. If you're really into it and you want to support the Field of 68, $9.99. The Field of 68 Premium. I think that is worth the value. All right. The game last night, I can say it now. I am thrilled that I did not completely bail on this team. Thought about it. I thought about just kind of writing them off, but there's too much talent there. And it seems to me like UConn doesn't seem to me. UConn has figured out some of the issues that they had and the flaws that they had and the things about their team that were exploitable. I'm going to get into all that. I'm going to talk about all that because I have some takes about all of that. I have some takes on Adama Sanogo. I have some takes on Jordan Hawkins. I think that there is a lot that we need to discuss that has been something that we've kind of speculated about, but I think that we can now speak about with some certainty at this point. I also have an interview with Danny Hurley coming up. I also have a segment from last night's After Dark with John Fanta from the Florida Game Pavilion where we talked about this very game. So there's a lot of good stuff coming up here in the pod. I want to start with this. I do believe, and I said it over and over again, I thought that it was a confidence thing. The issue when UConn went through their bad run is that it was a confidence thing. Andre Jackson was not being guarded. He did not know how to deal with that. He was struggling with being someone that defenses said is so bad at basketball that we're going to let you shoot. He couldn't figure out how to impact games. At the same time, Tristan Newton was kind of struggling with his confidence and his intensity and finding a way to create an impact on a game. So I'm going to start with Tristan. I think that he's so important to what UConn does offensively because one, he allows you to have somebody that can make something happen when nothing else is working. You need that when you get into a tournament setting. You need that at the end of a college basketball game. There are going to be times when the team has a set completely scouted, when they know exactly what you're going to do, when they blow up the action that you're trying to get a shot out of. You're coming down 8, 7, 6. You need someone 5 to go out there and make a play 4 and find a way to either get on the free throw line or get a foul or create an easy shot for somebody. And Tristan Newton has been that guy since UConn got it going again. Since he found a way to be able to take advantage of his size. I think the knock that we had on him and that I specifically had on him coming into the season, I didn't think he was going to be athletic enough to be able to get to the basket and make the plays that he needs to make in the Big East Conference. And I do think that he's found a way to kind of take advantage of his size and his physicality. You see a lot of stuff where he kind of gets into the lane, holds somebody off with his shoulder and creates a little bit of space and gets a little floater. He is getting all the way to the basket sometimes. He is finding people with passes. I think that he's been very, very good. And what he can provide off the bounce is something that UConn does not have anywhere else. I also think that I thought he was sensational last night. I thought he did everything that we want him to be able to do as a player. I thought that he was an absolute terror on the ball against Devin Carter. Like, Devin Carter is a stud. I think that dude's going to end up playing in the NBA. And he was all out of sorts because Andre was up in him. I was talking with someone on the staff last night, and I didn't really see this until I actually saw him in person, right? But you can kind of see it with Andre's posture. You know how you talk about how like a dog has their ears pinned back, right? And you know that when they're ready to get aggressive, right? With Andre, it's his shoulders. When he's kind of slouched like this and he's kind of playing leaning forward and he's kind of folding, I don't want to say folding in on himself, but kind of leaning forward like that, he's not the same guy as he is when his shoulders are back, his chest is out, and he's playing with a level of confidence. That's what you got to look at. When he's out there, when he's got his chest out, when you see the UConn across his chest, that's when you know he's coming and he's ready to play. And that guy, he changes everything because he does all of the little things that creates extra opportunities, right? There's 2 examples that I want to give you from last night. The first was, it was in the first half. UConn had a 3-on-1 fast break that looked like it was going to get blown up. Tristan was coming down. He had Andre running down the right wing. He kind of threw the ball away a little bit. Andre was able to save the ball, keep it in bounds. It kind of came between Devin Carter and Tristan Newton. Tristan was able to pick the ball up, knock it to Andre Jackson, who picked it up, threw a cross-court pass to Jordan Hawkins, who banged home a three. And that was a moment where it put UConn up by 25. It put them up 25-22 after Providence had just retaken the lead. There was another possession in the second half where I believe it was Jared Bynum had the ball on the top of the key. Devin Carter came to him. Andre Jackson was right up in there, created a steal, created a turnover, picked the ball up, got samples. Like there was a bunch in Creighton. He kept a bunch of second chance opportunities alive. Against Georgetown, it was his offensive rebound and his ability to throw the ball over the defense to the weak side of the floor to Alex Caravan for the game clinching three. It's little things like that, right? Not all of them are going to show up on the box score. For example, Devin Carter, 3 for 10 last night. He hit a couple of really, really tough shots that were fluky. I don't think that he played well at all offensively. Go back, look at the highlights, look at who was guarding him every time that Devin Carter shot the ball. Things like that. When Andre's playing confident, that's what happens. It gets you easy baskets. It gets you second chance opportunities. It gets you win possessions that you wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. And that's to say nothing of his. He's the only guy on the team really that's going to grab a defensive rebound and take it the other way and go make something happen because he's beating everybody down the floor. The dude, honestly, he's a world-class track athlete if he had just never picked up a basketball. That's what you need out of him. I thought he did it perfectly last night. I thought he was great. And there's honestly, I think that there's a couple of reasons for that. I'll get into those in a second. But Andre playing confident, that was one of the liabilities, right? And no, I'll talk about it right now. What they've been able to do to keep him engaged and keep him involved offensively is they've changed a couple of things. One of them is we talked about it earlier. They're using him more as like a screener and involved in those actions so that it keeps the defender engaged. The other thing that he's done a really good job of is some of like the backdoor cut and being present in the dunker spot. There's two ways that you can create space essentially as a player. It's the vertical spacer, right? Well, it's the obvious one. It's the 3-point shooter where defenders have to pull out to guard you. The other is the vertical spacer, right? And what a vertical spacer means is when someone's coming down the lane, there's a shot blocker in the paint, there's a help guy in the paint. You have to make a decision. Are you going to come over and try to take a charge, try to contest the ball handler, or are you going to stay with the guy that is on the lob? Think about it kind of like almost as a 2-on-1. You got to make a decision. Where are you going to go? Who are you going to guard? What are you going to do? If the guy comes over to help and you can throw the lob up, throw it to the top of the square, Andre's up there, bam, dunks it. That's the vertical spacer. That's how you create space in and around the basket just by being able to jump up and catch a dunk, because that guy's got to be aware of it. If he knows that there's a player behind him that can catch a lob, maybe he doesn't come all the way over for a charge that allows you to get to the rim, finish with a layup, finish with your left hand. So he's been able to be a vertical spacer. He's been really effective as an off-ball cutter. He had the back door on, I think it was the second possession of the game. Last night, Tristan found him. There was another one where early in the second half, they ran a set play that where Andre was wide open for the dunk. I can't remember who didn't throw him a pass, but they didn't throw him the pass and they didn't get it to him. But they found ways to keep him engaged as a cutter, as a screener, as a mover, and somebody that is just involved in doing things offensively. If you're involved in doing things offensively, that's all you need out of him. He cannot be someone that just stands out there and misses threes that when no one's guarding him, because then you're just going to completely blow up the confidence that he has. So Andre playing confident, that was the first liability. The second liability was Alex Caravan defensively on fourth. That's where people attacked. We saw it with Bryce Hawkins in the first Providence game. He had, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was 100 points and 50 rebounds. It was Zach Fremantle in the first Xavier game. Again, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was about 75 points and 25 rebounds. We saw Omax Prosper go at him in the first Marquette game. We saw Arthur Kaluma unsuccessfully, but still try to go at him in the first Creighton game. Here is what Caravan has done in the 4 games since then against the Fours. Fremantle, 9 points, 2 for 5 from the floor, got in foul trouble. Hopkins, he had 16 points, but he was 4 for 10 from the floor. He had no rebounds. You're going to live with those numbers from him, from a guy that is probably the most talented player in the Big East. I think you can make the argument. Arthur Kaluma, 2 points, 0 for 6 from the floor. Omax, 3 points, 0 for 1 from the floor. UConn won by 15 in that game. He has gotten so much better defensively, and some of it is confidence, some of it is learning how to use his body and his length, and some of it is just he's gotten tougher. He's no longer just a freshman out there. First of all, he was always an old freshman. Second of all, it is now excuse me. It is now coming down to the end of what is effectively his third semester as a college basketball player. That dude is a veteran, as old as you're going to get for a freshman, as experienced as you're going to get for a freshman. And he is playing the best basketball of his college basketball career at this point. Best basketball of the season, freshman of the year in the Big East. He's been terrific defensively. That has changed a lot of things for UConn in terms of how good they are. Because again, remember, you get stops. That's how UConn gets out in transition. You get out in transition. That's the easiest way to get Jordan Hawkins open, catch and shoot threes. That's the easiest way to be able to score against a defense that isn't set. And look, as good as UConn has been in moments, they're still not great when it comes to playing against a set defense. The more that they can get out in transition, the better. Another thing that I wanted to note, I think Adama's acceptance of the fact that he's not going to be the superstar every single game. He's not going to be the guy getting 18 shots every game. Not every single game is going to be Creighton. It's just so important to what UConn is and kind of how they can use him, right? I think at this point, we all know that the most dangerous guy on the floor every single time that UConn steps on the floor is going to be Jordan Hawkins. That's why you see teams scheme to stop him. That's why you find ways to chase him off of screens. That's why he is the guy that is sprinting the way that he does around the basket. And we'll get to him in a second. But I think Adama's ability to find ways to impact the game beyond just being the guy that gets the ball 8 from the basket, dribble, shoulder into chest, pump fake, step through, ballerina feet, find a way to try to finish around the basket. The post game is still there. He can still do that, and you still have opportunities where they throw it to him in the basket. But, I mean, his passing game has really opened up. One of the things that I've seen a lot more, and I can't remember them doing this a ton early in the season, but one of the things I've seen a lot more from them is running a set to get Adama Sanogo 18 to 20 feet away from the basket at the high post, and then running pin downs on either side of him, right? And finding ways to kind of get defenders engaged on either side of him. There's two things that happens here. One, you're forcing Andre Jackson's defender to guard him. Two, you're creating opportunities for Jordan Hawkins to come off of a curl and then come off of a dribble handoff, or same thing with Tristan Newton. And three, you're allowing Adama to kind of go one-on-one against what is most likely going to be a slower-footed, less coordinated defender away from the basket, and that's what he's really good at. And four, his ability to pass out of these actions was really, really impressive last night. He had 3 assists out of them. They got 3 layups out of that. One was a backdoor to Jordan Hawkins. One was a backdoor to Tristan Newton. There was another one, I'm blanking on who ended up finishing it, but I think that it ultimately resulted in Naheem Aline hitting a 3. He's not great out of the post, like when he gets double teamed, but if you let him kind of stand up away from the basket and scan the floor, he's really good at that. And oh, by the way, because he can shoot it a little bit, it pulls that defender away from the basket and it creates a lot of space in and around the lane. All of that shit matters, and it matters a lot. And his acceptance of kind of being that guy, as opposed to being the guy that's going to get 20 shots a game, so important. I can't emphasize enough how important that is to the chemistry of a team, the chemistry in a locker room, and the ability of everybody to get along and the team to reach their ceiling. That's I can't say enough about what Adama was last night, and he still finished with 16-9. And then the last thing I want to mention here is Jordan Hawkins. I hope people appreciate how difficult of a skill it is to sprint the way that he sprints around screens consistently on every possession, come around curls and catch and shoot without ever getting tired, without ever looking like he's off balance. It makes it, there's a reason why he draws so many fouls on 3-point shots, because he's so fucking fast and he comes around those screens so hard and he takes those curls so sharply and he has such quick release that you're trying to get that contest in. And a lot of times there's not much that you can do once you kind of get there, you're trying to get the contest in, and he's right there. He's got such quick release, you run into him. It's really incredible watching him. And honestly, it's why he's going to be a great NBA role player and a great NBA shooter. But more importantly, he's been able to develop the rest of his game off of that shooting ability. Like the one that stood out to me last night, I'll say it again. Devin Carter is one of the best, if not the best, perimeter defenders in all of college basketball. He is sensational at getting around screens, at blowing up screens, at making sure that, you know, when Hawkins comes off, he can still get a contest on the shot, keeping perimeter players in front of him. That was a hard thing to say. Last night, there was a play where Jordan does all the running stuff, end up getting the ball in the perimeter, throws a pump fake, takes 2 dribbles to his left hand, kind of comes around and finishes it with a lefty floater outside the lane, off the glass, a ridiculously tough shot. Great defense by Carter, better offense by Jordan. Those are the kind of things that you need to see out of him to say like, oh, okay, yeah, like NBA teams need to really, really take a long look at this dude. He's tough defensively. Like he's a skinny little guy, but he's got heart to him. Like you could see that Baltimore coming out, sprained his ankle last night, came right back in. It's not the first time that he's dealt with an ankle thing. Like he can kind of play through it a little bit. The more that this season goes on, the more respect I have for his game and his ability. And again, I cannot say enough about how good of a job Hurley has done adjusting what this UConn team does and finding ways to make it work with the pieces that they have. Some really, really smart tweaks and adjustments to what they do offensively. And look, a lot of armchair psychologists and basketball psychologists to try to get some of these guys that didn't have that confidence and self-belief to play with that confidence and self-belief. And it's been a lot of fun to watch. It's been a lot of fun to watch them come back. I feel great about where UConn is right now. And I don't know what's going to happen in March. I don't know what's going to happen in these tournaments. I'm hoping for a run in Madison Square Garden in the Big East because that would be a lot of fun. I miss the Friday and Saturday night semifinals games and the finals games. It'd be great to watch. I'll be there. It'll be great to watch UConn in them. A lot of fun to make a run in the NCAA tournament. But wherever it goes from here, this is what I want to say. And Ed Cooley kind of touched on this last night, and it's irked Connecticut fans a little bit. But I do think that there is some truth in what he said, in that we have been spoiled as UConn fans. We have been. Think about what we have with the men's team from like the 90s until 2014. Think about what we have with the women's team from like 1995 on, something like that. And appreciate that we saw what the worst of it could be. We saw what it could be like, frankly, to be a Providence fan from 2016 through 2020, right? We saw what it was like to be completely irrelevant, to not matter, and to not have a team that you wanted to watch. Now you have a team that you want to watch. So whatever happens from here on out, like I'm just appreciative that I give a shit again, right? I'm just appreciative that I kind of have that level of anxiety and that level of anticipation before a big game. To have that level of confidence where when you're going up against a rival like Providence, who, like, let's be honest, no one on UConn wants to deal with anything that's going to happen from a perspective of dealing with Providence fans after Providence beats UConn. And to go into a game like that, looking forward to it and being excited about the potential of winning the game, as opposed to dealing with the dread of like, shit, man, we're going to hear so much from these people if UConn ends up losing. Like, just the fact that this is where the UConn program is right now, it's great and it's awesome. And I'm glad that they're back, and, you know, whatever comes of this season is what comes of this season. But I'm firmly in the camp of anything is possible this year. In a year where it is wide open as this college basketball season is, I could see UConn losing the first round of the Big East in the NCAA tournament and not have it be that big of a shot. I could see them winning the Big East and get to the Final Four and not having it be that big of a shot. I'm here for the ride, man. I'm here to go. I'm here for whatever comes. I'm going to be supporting no matter what happens. And it's been a lot of fun to watch this team and the resiliency of this team. You got to be proud of the boys. Got to root for them. And I think that's all I really have to say about it. It's a great time to be a UConn fan and a great time to be supporting this program. And I am fired up that my son is just as into it as I am at this point. So let's get into that conversation. We're going to go Dan Hurley first, and then we'll get into that interview I did. Not interview. The segment I did on UConn from last night's After Dark with John Fanta. Before we get into all of that, let's hear a quick message from the sponsor of today's episode, Webster Bank.
Oh, what a finish! Buy a new home beats grow my business at the buzzer. Webster Bank is offering you a chance to win a trip for two to the Men's College Hoops Finals in Houston. Just pick your biggest goals for 2023 and enter today at webstergoals.com. No purchase necessary. Ends 3/25/23. Must be a legal resident of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, or New York, and at least 18. For rules and details, visit webstergoals.com. Webster Bank, N.A., member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Now let me welcome onto the field of 68 After Dark, UConn head coach Dan Hurley. Dan, first and foremost, I got a little bit of a bone to pick with you. I didn't realize that we were doing the whiteout, so I had the road blues on.
Road blues, and we should have had the throwback whites.
Yeah, I needed it. I went to the store. To look, and all they had was the Rudy Gay one. And I was like, I already got the Kemba jersey, right?
Oh man, yeah. You're a super fan.
I tried my damnedest up there to not go nuts, right? Yeah. It didn't really work all that well, but I kept it subdued, respectful, right?
January must have really sucked for you.
Yeah, it was rough. Oh, it was rough. So let's talk about that. So you mentioned it in the press conference, right? You had the 3 home games or road games against the top 4 teams. Always tough. Yeah. St. John's game, Seton Hall game. How have you turned it around? Like what has changed?
Yeah, I just think it's a culture. Number one, I think we pride ourselves on how connected we are. And, the fact that we work our ass off 11 months a year as a program to be able to weather the storms that come up during the season. And listen, we had a joyride through the non-conference and the start of Big East play, and I think the schedule caught us. You throw in that game again at XL versus St. John's, and I still just have a hard time wrapping my mind around our performance that day. But I think you go through hard times, and as long as you got some character, it makes you tougher.
Tristan has really gotten it going over the course of the last 3 weeks. We know UConn point guards. We know your offense is so important when you have that lead guard. What has he provided, and what has he changed now that it seems like he's more aggressive getting to the basket?
Yeah, I mean, we need him to. We need him to be able to play off script a little bit more. There's no secret to what we do offensively. We run a lot of things to create opportunities for our shooters, for Jordan and for Caravan, and to get post-ups, and for Adama, and to get Donovan in the ball screen game rolling at the rim. But the coaches that we play against are really good, man. They take away a lot of the best things that you want to do, and players got to make plays off script, and he's done a much better job of that.
Seems like Andre is playing with a little bit more, I don't know if confidence is the right word, but he's back to being his flying around, for lack of a better term, just messing shit up for the other team defensively, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what he's at his best. That's what he does. Has that been a coaching thing? How have you gotten him going again?
I think you just tell him you love him, and your impact is so much more than points or field goal attempts or a guy standing in the lane when they're guarding you. I think it was a little bit of a mind issue for him. It's such a unique thing when you're guarded like that, and there is a remedy to it. You put yourself in a dunker spot, you go out and be a screener on the perimeter. You could also get the ball off the defensive glass and push that thing as hard as humanly possible and create before they go stand under the rim. So he's one of the most exciting players in the country, even when he's not scoring points.
What does Jordan Hawkins run the mile in? It's got to be like 3:55, something like that.
Yeah, he's such a unique player, man. It's like you don't want to compare him to people in terms of being able to shoot off the move like a Klay Thompson, but how many college players can run off of actions at the speed he can, and then
the answer is zero, by the way. The answer is zero. I'll say it. You don't have to say it.
Over the last just a couple of years, too. I'm not just talking about like current. So, I think he went through some highs, some lows during the year, and I think he's starting to play like an early junior. And if we get a junior Jordan Hawkins for the next month, we can do big things.
The ankle's all right? I saw him walking up the stairs in the back, so.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to sell the foul that they didn't call before they called the second foul.
All right, so Last thing I got for you. Ed Cooley in the press conference said that part of the reason that they were so messed up offensively was the $2 beer night. Right? Is that going to be something where it becomes a consistent thing? I'm putting you on the spot now. Can UConn fans expect $2 beer night more often? Because, it works.
Yeah.
Get them drunk and you never know what's going to happen.
I mean, again, much has been publicized about, the XL UConn relationship in terms of the finances of it and how it's not really beneficial to the university. So I don't know. I'm begging for the $2 beer night, maybe even $1.50. Just get worse beer.
Yeah.
Or just get worse beer. I don't. Milwaukee's bad. Just get worse beer and charge maybe a buck.
These people aren't going to care.
No, that was awesome tonight.
Yeah,
I mean, that was Gamble at its best.
All right, so you guys beat Providence by 18. You're back and rolling. You deserve something better than a $2 beer tonight to celebrate, man. Thank you for being here.
Let's go. I got it.
Rob Dalster comes to us from Connecticut in stores from inside Gamble, where tonight the UConn Huskies earned their 21st win and did it in emphatic fashion. They get revenge on Providence, 87-69. The Huskies 10-7 in the Big East. They've separated themselves into the top 5 of the conference, and UConn made a statement tonight. Rob Dalster made a statement.
It was, for my money, the best that we've seen this team play since probably Portland. I think that's probably what it was when they were beating up on the likes of Alabama and they were beating up on the likes of Iowa State. And it was nice to see them kind of get their swagger back, right? Like, it's been a while since we've seen that UConn team show up playing that way. Now, a lot of it probably had to do with the fact that they were playing in this building with everybody wearing the same color white, with everybody swinging their towels, and with everybody enjoying the $2 Miller Lights that were going around. It was actually pretty funny at tip-off. I would say a good 30% of the lower bowl seats were empty, but the concourses were completely packed because everybody was in line trying to get their next beer. And a lot of people made the right decision to grab 2 at a time every time that they went up there to grab it. I saw a lot of people double fisting. But I'll say this about UConn. I've kind of been steadfast on this. When Tristan Newton shows up and when Tristan Newton is really good, it changes what UConn is. And when Andre Jackson is playing with his shoulders back and his chest out, and he's playing, I said it on Top Dogs, I said it on my podcast, when he's playing like he's Andre effing Jackson instead of just Andre Jackson, that's when UConn is at their best. When they get that Tristan and when they get that Andre Jackson. Because, you know what you're going to get from Adama Sanogo, right? I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that necessarily is like the most dominant player on the floor. But you know what you're going to get from him. He's solid. He's going to give you a post release, right? You're going to be able to get passing from him out of the high post. He's going to be a good positional defender. He's going to rebound. He's going to block some shots. And you know what you're going to get from Jordan Hawkins. Some night he's going to go 7 for 10 from 3. Some nights he's going to go 2 for 10 from 3. But you're going to get him running off of those screens. You're going to get the open looks. You kind of know what you're going to get from those two guys. But when Tristan Newton plays great, and he wasn't great tonight. He was good. He wasn't great tonight, but he played with that confidence. Same thing with Andre Jackson. When you get it from those two guys, those are the difference makers, I think, John.
There's nobody in college basketball whose energy when on is a direct parallel to what his team ends up doing than Andre Jackson's energy, hustle plays, his ability to get out on the run can do for this Connecticut team. It says it all that in 33 minutes tonight, he took a total of 3 shots. He had 4 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. This wasn't some absurd scoring game. But Rob, his floor game, he does the things that make you continually say, wow. Wow.
The big thing with him is it's the defense, right? It is the presence that he gives you rebounding. Like, he shut off the water for Devin Carter. Devin Carter is in my mind is going to end up being an NBA player. Like, I think he's one of the best defenders, the best perimeter defenders you're going to find in college basketball. He is a guy that can create his own bucket, that can make threes, that can play off the bounce. He's got long arms. He's athletic. He's got that NBA pedigree because of who his dad is. And Andre Jackson shut the water off for him tonight. And it was to the point I've honestly, I swear I've never seen this out of a Providence team before, but like those, I don't want to say they quit. Like that's the wrong way to phrase it. But there was like a level of, man, we're just not going to get it this time. But like 4 minutes left in that game, Bryce Hawkins is walking up the floor. Devin Carter's walking up the floor. I think you heard in the press conference, Ed Cooley kind of called him out a little bit on it. Like that's not what you expect out of this team. And to me, that is what UConn was doing to teams earlier in the year. And I don't know if this is necessarily like them being, I'm doing air quotes here, them being back or whatever. But that was the best UConn performance we've seen since we didn't really know what they could be. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, which is my question to you. Is UConn's best the best in the Big East?
I don't think so. I know that they just lost. I still think Creighton is the best team in the league. And how can you argue with Marquette? Like, how can you argue with the team that is, we know how good Providence is. We know how good Creighton is. We know how good UConn is. We know how good Xavier is. And Marquette is 2 games in front of all of them. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
I think one of the things I took away last night, Fanta, from, and not to get off this game, but one of the things I took away from last night was the ability that Marquette has to create turnovers when they need to. I don't think that they're a great defensive team because I don't know if they have that many great defensive players. They don't really have the rim protection that they had last year. And when you get out and you pressure and when you get out and you overplay, it's really important that you have that element of rim protection to take that away. But man, when they decided to guard last night, there wasn't really all that much that Creighton was able to do. That was as impressive of a second half as I've seen on the road in that building in front of 18,000 people down by 12 with 4 minutes left in the first half. Man, I don't know. I've been steadfast on this and I've been called a homer about this. I think that the top of the Big East is the best conference, like as good as better than the Big 12. I think the top 4, maybe 5 in the Big East when UConn's playing like this is better than the top 4 or 5 in the Big 12. You can call me crazy, you can call me homer, you can call me whatever you want, but this is a very, very, very good league at the top.
If it's not 1, it's certainly 2. And I would say from an entertainment value standpoint, that's just it. It's that when these teams are getting together, the entertainment value of the college basketball, for those who are saying out there that, because certain blue bloods are down, college basketball suffers. You're not watching some of the games. Every single week, the Big East is delivering the goods. These marquee matchups have been fascinating to watch. Your first half tonight was really interesting. Jared Bynum was red hot. He hit his first 4 threes, and Providence was in it. I think, to your point, for UConn to score 50 in the second half of the game, that's where they sucked the life out of Providence tonight.
Yeah, and I think that had more to do with just this was not Providence's night. And you're allowed to have a couple stinkers like that. And I know like they lost the game to St. John's. They didn't play great in that game. They did not play great in this one. And this is not like a good time to have those moments when you are not playing well, right? This is kind of when you want to be peaking and you want to be streaking in the right direction. But like big picture, I am not worried at all about Providence at all. And to be frank, I think that the reaction that you're going to get from Ed Cooley as a result of this performance is going to be a good thing overall for Providence because it kind of woke them up a little bit, right? Like I sure as hell do not want to be in the practice tomorrow. Like good luck with that, man. That is not going to be fun. Yeah, I'm not worried about Providence at all. Like not even a little bit. Because here's why, Fana.
Yep.
Jared Bynum is like that dude is a killer. We've seen what he can do. We know what he can do. He's done it over and over the years. Last year he was sensational in big moments, right? And I think today he didn't play great in the second half, but he hit 3 huge threes when it looked like UConn was trying to be able to like pull away a little bit, like big momentum killing threes. The ones when he lets the ball go, was like, ooh, that's a big one. You know how you say that sometimes when you're watching a game? He hit 3 of those. Devin Carter, like I said, I think he's an NBA player. I think he's going to play in the NBA. I think he is terrific. I've said I think Andre Jackson is the best defender in college basketball when he's playing his best. I think Devin Carter is somewhere in that conversation as well. Like
Yeah.
I tweeted this out. He looks like he is the biggest pain in the ass to deal with when he's guarding you. Like, come on, man. Looks like that sucks. And then Bryce Hawkins was an All-American. He's a second-round pick, maybe a borderline first-round pick. And I think you can make the argument that when it comes to just straight up being able to get a bucket, he is as good as anybody in this conference. I think he might be the best player. I don't know if he's going to be the biggest player of the year. I think you got to give that to Tyler Kolek, but he's as good as any. I'm not worried about them at all. At all.
3 things before we get to Dan Hurley. Number 1, Big East standings check, folks. Marquette is now firmly in the driver's seat. They're well on their way to their first Big East regular season championship in a decade. Golden Eagles at 14-3. Xavier, Creighton, and Providence all at 12-5. UConn at 10-7. Seton Hall at 9-8. Villanova at 8-9. And I go deeper into the standings, folks, because how things shake out here. Because now we know Marquette's going to win the regular season. Now it's like, okay, who's going to have to play Villanova in the conference tournament? Because all of a sudden that matchup has totally changed. Second thing on UConn, they out-rebounded Providence 40-20 in this game. They handled Ed Croswell in this game really, really well. They dug in defensively. They were there in the right places. And that's where Sanogo just played. He played such a good game, a good floor game tonight. And then the third thing is nobody for Connecticut had more than 3 fouls in this game. Mm-hmm. That's big.
I was nervous for a second because our guy Kevin McNamara, K-Mac Sports, he great job, as good as anybody covering Providence. He tweeted out Providence leads the Big East in free throw rate. They haven't taken a free throw yet today with 18 minutes left in the second half. And it immediately led to a run of, like, out of 7 possessions, Providence shot 11 free throws. And I'm just sitting here like, hey, Matt, come on, man. You jinxed it. Can you tell me what the lottery numbers are going to be tomorrow?
You probably could. Hey,